Part 4 Harlequin Desire. Cowgirls Don't Cry. Red Dirt Royalty. Silver James. Those guilty jalapenos boiled and raged in her stomach again. Returning to Chicago was the right thing, really. This conjured up the picture of her close encounter from chiseled face still seemed familiar, and she felt as if she should know him. Was he an actor? Or maybe a professional cowboy? She nudged the feeling this way and that, seeking an answer, but didn't find one. The passenger in front of her shoved his seat all the way back, jostling her tray table so that the coffee served moments before by the flight attendant sloshed out. The man on her right in the window seat snorted on as his head fell over toward her shoulder. She dodged him, but bumped the woman on her left. That earned her a scathing look. Cass rolled her eyes and shrugged. She could only hope this flight from hell ended sooner rather than later. She gulped what little coffee didn't spill and passed off the sudden napkin and cup to this attendant as she came back down the aisle, feeling far too much like a sardine for comfort. Cass closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Thoughts of the handsome cowboy danced in her head. She was positive she knew him from somewhere. Since she didn't watch much TV, she discarded the idea that he might be an actor. Could he be someone that she met in college? Or, for heaven's forbid, high school? She didn't have much best memories for faces, but there was just something about the man. Giving up any pretense of relaxation, she shoved her tray table and fastened it with a little lever, using a lot more force than technically necessary. Then she stretched her legs under the seat in front of her and drummed her toes against the bottom of it. When the occupant twisted to stare at her over the top of the reclined seat back, she flashed the smile of a 2-year-old brat and didn't care. The man eventually turned around, and since he raised the seat a few inches, she quit kicking. More memories of her dad swamped her. Moisture filled her eyes and her nose stung. She blinked rapidly and had to sort through some more guilt. She was a terrible daughter. Her dad had died, and she couldn't be bothered to get there in time to say goodbye. If she never saw the ranch again, never saw Oklahoma again, it would suit her just fine. Yes, she was selfish. She admitted it. So there. Boots had begged her for months to come, and she stalled, and her dad had been too proud to call, and she'd been too proud to bend. Now it was too late. When tears came, Cass dashed them away from her eyes with the back of her hand. Her elbow caught the arm of a passenger sitting on the left. The woman exhaled. She sounded uncompromisingly disdainful as she shifted away from the contact. The guy on her right just snored, mouth open, drool threatening. Cassie's wool blazer, already walking a fine line between anger and grief. Come here, Rip. Cass lost control. Well, pardon my tears. She didn't bother to keep her voice down. My father died last night, and I was stuck in a freaking blizzard and didn't get there in time. I'm on my way home to bury him. If my crying is too much of an imposition, you can just move yourself to another seat. Around her, the hum of conversation petered off into silence, and she could tell from the heat radiating off her face that she didn't turn beet red, a legacy from her mother. She flushed scarlet whenever she got mad, cried, or laughed too hard. Yeah, that was Cassie Morgan. She wasn't a pretty she wasn't pretty when her emotions ruled. Unfortunately, that was a great deal of time. At the moment, her emotions slammed her with a double whammy. The woman stared, mouth gaping, left speechless by Cassie's outburst. Cassie bit back a further retort. Instead of settling back into her seat, she crossed her arms over her chest and stared stone-faced straight ahead, ignoring everyone. Chance slipped his French roast coffee, or slipped. Chance slipped his French roast coffee from a ceramic mug and skimmed the information on his laptop screen that he was learning all sorts of interesting things about his father. He couldn't wait to share with his brothers. To hear the old man tell it now, he'd been born with a gold spoon up his. Chance reined in his thought and tried to scrub the image from his brain. But back when Chance's mother was still alive, this old man had been all about hard work and scrambling to put the barren name on the map. Chance's research from the night before showed Cyrus had worked the oil patch, ranched, and even been the rodeo rider on the side. And he loved a woman named Colleen before he met and married Chance's mother, Alice, according to the papers at the time. Cyrus Barron had a stint in county jail after a spectacular fight at a rodeo in Fort Worth. He'd put the Ben Morgan in the hospital and ended the man's promising bronc riding career. Colleen had turned her back on him, or on Cyrus, and married Ben within weeks. Oh yeah, the old man didn't hold a grudge. He got even. He'd been dogging Ben Morgan's steps ever since, throwing up roadblocks and attempt to grind the other man beneath his boot heel. But Ben Morgan didn't have any give up in him, quote unquote. He made a life for his wife, first as a supplier of rodeo stock, then as a horse trainer. Chance rubbed the back of his neck. His father was a royal jerk. He couldn't even let the man have peace in the grave. The email from Cord first thing this morning had confirmed that Morgan had taken out a loan on a small bank. The bank recently purchased by a subsidy of Barron Enterprises, and he used the ranch as collateral. The old man wanted Chance to stop off and pick up the file before coming into the office. Since he no longer screw with Ben Morgan, Cyrus planned to screw with any heirs or successors his old nemesis might have by calling the note. Yeah, leave it to this father to be 4 moves ahead of any opponent. Chance had to admire the old man's business acumen. He thought that the acquisition, foolish as at the time, and certainly not worth the hassle of the federal and state banking regulations paperwork. Chance had hired a couple of experts in the banking law to handle it because Cyrus had remained adamant. The old man wanted the bank, so they bought it. Chance knew why now. He tossed off a mental shrug. Barron Enterprises could afford it. Closing the laptop, he held up his mug for a refill as the flight attendant hovered, a ready smile on her face. You know, I have layovers in OKC sometimes, she whispered. She wrapped one hand around his to a steady cup as she poured, a move he recognized as an excuse by touching him. Chase glanced up. She was a brunette in her late 20s, and her trim uniform fit all the right places. The girl was just his type, female. But even as he smiled, another face appeared in his memory, the blonde from the hotel. His abdomen contracted and his heart thundered for a few beats. He hadn't even gotten her name. Yet, here she was, haunting him. Sorry, hon, this is just a quick trip for me. The lie flowed so smooth as honey from his mouth. The disappointment registered upon her face. Chance wondered what the hell had gotten into him. Why would he turn down a sure thing? While it was unlikely that he'd ever cross paths with the woman, he did have a brother who was a private investigator and ran Barron Security. He'd sick cash on her trail. All Chance wanted was one night to get her out of his system. That's all it would take. Come here, Rip. Sorry. He shifted in his seat, glad the table and computer disguised his discomfort. He couldn't pinpoint why the woman had gotten under his skin, but she had, like a burr under his saddle. He shoved thoughts of her away and opened his laptop again, hoping to concentrate on the task at hand. He had to squelch his libido and uneasiness over what his father wanted. The combination made for an odd sensation in itself. The flight attendant scurried toward the economy seat section. He leaned into the aisle to see what was happening. 3 attendants hovered around a row of seats toward the back of the plane. Everyone with aisle seats had twisted to watch the commotion too. He heard raised voices, but the conversation was too indistinct. Within moments, the situation calmed. He returned his attention to the problem at hand. Once the plane had landed, he was the first one off. With no luggage to retrieve, he headed straight for the parking lot. But he stepped into the gentle March sunshine, glad he hadn't bothered to shrug into his heavy winter jacket. The storm pounding the upper Midwest hadn't dipped as far south as Oklahoma, and Chance was thankful. He hated cold weather, of course. He hated the hot weather, too. If he had his way, he lived somewhere where the temperature remained at a balmy 68 degrees year-round. He dug out his car keys, hit the button for the auto unlock, and dumped his carry-on suitcase and laptop in the passenger seat before settling behind the wheel. With a reckless abandon born from experience, Chance maneuvered his sleek phantom black Audi R8 sports car toward the parking lot exit. The car swooped down the exit ramp, slowing to a stop just long enough for him to pay the attendant. I'll be back shortly. I have to go check on Rip.